This episode of the Storyteller Chef podcast is brought to you by Harney and Sons Fine Teas, a perfect companion to every story. Whether you're reading, writing, or just enjoying a quiet moment to yourself, Harney and Sons offers a beautiful selection of teas to elevate this experience. From classic blends to unique finds, every cup is crafted with care, just like the stories we love to share. Shop harney.com/discount/storyteller, and storyteller is in all caps. Now let's get back to the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Storyteller Shelf podcast. We have brewed up something amazing for you today. We have a career journey, which I know we promised that we would bring you some, so we are following through on that promise so that we can offer that guiding light to people who really, really, really want to work in publishing. And today we are speaking to Lori, who is the senior editor in trade licensing at Scholastic. And as I said, the word editor, we don't have to see you to know that everyone's buzzing right now. So let's just jump right into it. Our classic opener. Lori, can you tell us more about yourself and what is it that you do at Scholastic, really?
Of course. As you said, my name is Lori Wieczorek, and I'm a senior editor at Scholastic. I'm on the licensing and global brands team, which for those of you who don't know, basically means that I edit books based on popular brands, anything from Disney, Marvel, to something like Peppa Pig. So we wear a lot of hats in different age ranges. It's so much fun. I live in New Jersey with my daughter and my husband, and I am just so happy to be here to talk to you all today.
Finally, someone else from New Jersey is here with me so we can team up against Teresa and everyone in Texas.
Jersey girls here, Jersey girls.
We are representing today, not only publishing, but also Jersey. So we are smiling. If you're listening in Spotify, you can't see our big pearly whites, but trust me, they are there. All right, Lori, here's the tough question. How did you get into publishing? And how did you start in this really competitive industry?
Love answering this question. I truly didn't always know I wanted to be in publishing. My freshman year of college, I got involved in our campus newspaper as an opinion columnist and eventually became editor in chief of the paper. So that really gave me my first taste of the publishing process in and of itself. I was an English major with a creative writing and film minor, so I was always a words person. I was always reading. I didn't exactly know what career that would amount to, but, I always had my hopes high it would be something related to books. You just never know at that age. I actually worked at this restaurant in my college town for many years, and I became close with the owner. We talked a lot about books throughout the time I was there. And when I graduated, my original plan was to take a year off from finding a serious job and working as a barista in New York City. And then I would try to carve out a path as a writer. But, that didn't exactly pan out the way that I had planned. So instead of that, when I graduated college, the owner of that restaurant mentioned that he had a connection at Scholastic. And, you could say like the rest is history, but he basically bridged the gap for me between not knowing anyone in publishing to knowing someone in publishing. And I feel like I'm going to come back to this theme a lot of just like talk to everyone because you never know when you're going to find a connection that you least expect. So I interviewed for an editorial assistant position in the book clubs. So the book clubs, for those of you who don't know, are those flyers that used to go into classrooms. And you used to get so excited and circle all of these things that you really wanted from the flyer, and you'd bring it home to your parents. They'd give you this cash. And I feel like there's so much nostalgia associated with Scholastic and the book clubs. And, when I interviewed for the position, I hilariously brought this like little binder that I made to the interview, and it had my resume, which is very paltry. It was like my position at the newspaper, and that was basically it. The restaurant, and I printed out some editorial columns that I wrote that won some awards in college, and I didn't know whether that was what you were supposed to do or not when you're interviewing for a job. But I was like, here's my little binder, like, please hire me. But that was back in 2013. Things are all digital now, so you don't need to bring like a little binder to a job interview. And I managed to get the job, and that was yeah, 12 years ago, which is wild.
That is so fun. I love how you had the hookup at a restaurant. I can just hear people going, "Oh, maybe I should just start walking around and applying," because you never know who is going to know someone. It's one of those things. This is a very social sort of industry. Like Teresa and I mentioned that a lot of people who we speak to tend to be introverts. So it can be a challenge sometimes to cultivate that courage to speak out and reach out to people.
I feel like I'm a rare case of an introverted extrovert. Like, my comfort is, like, at home with my fam and talking to people that I know, but it really does pay off to just push yourself a little bit. Like, and I get it. It's so hard. It's so hard to be like, "Hey, my name is Lori and I'm interested in books." Like, it's like, but you just never know what they're gonna say. You just never know, and it's better to take the chance than, like, go home and regret it. You don't know how many times I've been to, like, an event or something, and I, like, ride the train home, and I'm like, "Oh, why did I say that? Oh, why did I do that?" But then you never think about the opportunities that you did it, and it panned out, right? You always focus on these, like, little negative moments that you have with people, and I tell you, like, they won't remember those negative moments, and, these moments that you get out of it are the ones that might mean the most to your career.
That was the best way to say it. Just don't get dragged into the negative thought spiral because it's not worth it at the end of the day. It's just a bad habit, I think, that a lot of us we've grown into, and we need to let it loose. We need to let it go. So let me ask you, because you've had career loyalty, you've stayed at Scholastic for quite a while. Could you one more time just walk us through all the positions you've had at Scholastic? And could you explain a little bit more about what they entail and how one led to the other?
As I mentioned before, my first position was an editorial assistant in book clubs. It was actually for the very youngest age range. So I started my career in like toddler products. So you're thinking board books, we're thinking phonics box sets, we're thinking, like young activity books, tools for parents, picture books. I read so many picture books in those days because when you start in a field, you just have to immerse yourself in the field. Like, yeah, exactly. I didn't know what, like, a Caldecott was, It was like I needed to really learn, and, you're what, 22, 23 when you graduate college. You're so young, and you're hungry for that knowledge. So, I found myself just totally immersed in that. I found that my personality and my sense of humor lended itself to a slightly older sensibility. So about a year into my position as an editorial assistant for those younger age ranges, a position opened up that was handling slightly older product for second and third graders. So you're thinking chapter books and just longer texts with a lot more humor and story to it. And I jumped at that. So I quickly moved on to that sort of older age range. So I was an assistant editorial manager at that point, and eventually became a full editorial manager. Basically the book club's position isn't really an editor as you kind of think of an editor. It's more of a book buyer, which is interesting, and you wear so many hats when you're an editorial manager. So I wasn't just, you know, editing books. I wasn't editing books at all, which is so counterintuitive to what I do now. It was more of selecting product, curating product for the book club flyers, securing titles to be brought in from other publishers. So it's not only Scholastic books that we would carry in the book club's flyers, it was also it was before Penguin and Random House fused, but Simon and Schuster, Source Books, the all the major publishers, we would buy in product from them to carry so that you had the largest range of product for the type of kid that you would find in a school. Because what are the odds that, like, only kids in that class would be interested in Scholastic books? They're interested in all books, and they don't know the difference between the publishers. So that was really interesting, and I would create these sections with these fun headers, and it was almost like a merchandising position and an editor's position and, like, slightly a design position. It was It was a lot. It was a lot, but of course we, like, had those teams as well. So I spent 7 years in the book clubs. I also carved out this niche for myself where I was doing all of the sort of trend watching for the book clubs team. So I would go to a lot of conventions to identify the brands that we would wanna represent in the flyers for when we bought the product. So I was in a way creating a bridge to my current position. So in actually the very beginning of the pandemic in 2020, I got the job as my current position in the trade licensing team. It was the first day that everything shut down in New York City, which was honestly so wild and scary. I mean, I remember leaving. I remember being in book clubs. It was my second to last day. And I turned to my colleagues and we're like, "See you in 2 weeks." And we grabbed our laptops and we're certain that we would all see each other in just 2 weeks of, like, lockdown or whatever this was. We weren't really sure what it was, obviously. And then I started my new position, and it was kind of difficult because I knew all the members on my new team, but I couldn't just turn my chair around and chat with them. It was definitely a learning curve. So I got the position on the new team, and I've been there for, oh my gosh, I think about what year are we in? We're 4 years, 5 years. Oh my gosh. Actually, my 12-year at Scholastic is going to be July 1st. So it's it's coming up. So I've been ever since 2020, I've been in the current position. I started as an editor on the team and I was recently promoted to senior editor. So I feel like my career is continuing to grow in different ways. I've always loved trends and brands, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit, but that's kind of what I do now. And I'm actually editing books now, which is really nice rather than being a book buyer.
You have had, like, the wildest experience because I have to tell you, I've never heard of people doing book clubs before because it's pretty specific, right? Definitely for better, but happy work anniversary. You have to have a cake at least, right?
Oh, yeah. I feel like I deserve like 12 cakes for every year service.
Now we're thinking big. Yes,
Yeah.
I like this. So, what is a typical work day for you?
I'm happy to talk about that. Email. Oh my goodness. You log on. First thing I do, we have a lot of international partners that we work with on the licensing team. And, Scholastic is a global company. So I work very closely with our Australia and UK teams. So I often will get emails from them that I wake up to, but they've already had their full day of work. So I get a lot of emails from them. I get a lot of emails from people in different time zones. So colleagues in different time zones, whether that's, California or the central part of our country. And so I start by answering all of my emails, making sure to get that out of the way, though they're always coming. The emails are always coming. There's no catching up on emails. A typical day consists of production meetings to make sure all of our books are on track, team meetings, which is whether that's with our designers or with our entire editorial team or with just my boss or the people I report to or the people I'm mentoring, sales meetings, creative brainstorms. It's a lot of project management, even though I'm an editor. I'm wrangling a lot of pieces. I feel like a lot of editors feel that way. That even though, their job, when you think of editor, is, you're in charge of the text, but you're really in charge of the entire book. So you're ferrying all of these little pieces that goes into creating a book and making sure that everything stays on track and we hit our deadlines. So, I chase our partners a lot. I chase our licensing partners a lot to make sure they're getting me the feedback or they've looked at something. It's funny when people ask me what my day looks like, I rarely respond with editing. I mean, all of that stuff is throughout the day, but of course, the meat of the day is reviewing manuscripts, looking at that. I like to carve out solid time for that, so I'm not just looking at a manuscript with a little bit of attention between meetings. I like to carve out 2 or 3 hours in which I don't have any distractions because, that's like the respect that writers deserve and that these creatives deserve when you create a book. You shouldn't just be like glancing at a manuscript between meetings. It's hard to find the time for that though, truly, because every company, is different. I don't know what it's like at other publishers, but we have a lot of meetings. So sometimes it's difficult to do that. But, when I'm not in meetings, I'm reviewing manuscripts, writing back cover copy, reviewing proofing passes. I've also been developing a lot of new IP, which is a new opportunity for me. Our company recently acquired another media company called Nine Story. It was big news at the time. It's been a couple of months since that happened, and there's renewed attention on identifying and creating book ideas that can be expanded into consumer products or TV opportunities. So, being in the licensing team, my team does a lot of IP development. So, we'll have an idea, or I'll think of an idea and say, "Hey, editorial team, like, do you think that this could be a great opportunity for toys or for a little animated short on YouTube or a show on Netflix?" And we kind of review it from there, which has been so fun. I'm such a geek, so I love that stuff. I love that stuff, and I'm so happy that I get to do that as well as, attend the meetings and correspond with people and also work with my authors who I love.
Love that you carve out that niche time of the day to really focus on for authors. I think that is something that we also as authors we appreciate and like you have so many formats that you're working on. You're talking about your day. I'm already exhausted. How do you juggle all those different formats from chapter books to graphic novels, to activity books?
It's tough. It's really not easy, honestly. I can't say that it is because you have to wear so many different hats in my position. It's like you said, it's a picture book or a board book, and then I have to look at a graphic novel, and then I have to review a YA horror manuscript, and those just are not the same. They're just not the same at all in so many ways. In so many ways. So it's tough. I try to divide my projects into days. So, like, if I say, today I am going to look at this picture book manuscript and nothing else. I can't divide myself into all these little genres. So you really have to, again, create time, and it's so difficult, but I think it's important to maintain, like the I'm holding up air quotes. I know we're on a podcast, but the integrity of the project, but also the kid. You have to think about the type of kid that's reading it, right? So I love the idea of putting myself in a toddler mindset. So I can't think of it in the same way when I'm doing a young adult manuscript, like a picture book manuscript or even activity book. And graphic novels are interesting because you are reviewing them in a totally different way than any other project. You're reviewing the way that the sequences work in terms of the visual aspect of it, and then you're also reviewing the text. And sometimes those come separately. Sometimes you get just the sketches without any letters on it or any words on it whatsoever. So you have to be in a totally different mindset to be like, okay, I have to try to understand the story purely from pictures with no text whatsoever. So it's difficult, but I enjoy it. I one complaint I had about my old job in book clubs. No one from book clubs listen to this. Don't tell anyone, was that the work itself was rewarding, but it was much the same, year over year. It was like always like September, back to school, like October, Halloween books, but for this, I work on so many different formats and it's just so different every day. Every week is different. Every project is so different. And I enjoy it. It's hard though. It's hard.
I think that's fascinating that you work in different I don't know avenues in like in a sense of the formatting. I don't know how you switch from, "Okay, now I've gotta focus on this is a graphic novel. Oh, wait, we're missing the text now. So what am I doing?" Like, that would be me. Like, I would be like, "Wait, what?"
It's a lot of what am I doing is what I ask myself out loud at home all the time when I'm not in the office.
You know what I really appreciate is that you really have that collaborative mindset, with your teams. I love that. I like the fact that you're saying, "How can we turn this into a show? How can we, turn this into a reel? How can we make this happen?" What does the collaboration process look like between you and the other departments, like sales, like marketing?
It's highly collaborative. We, like I said, about our meeting schedule, right? We are constantly in contact with our sales team. we don't acquire anything without them saying that they're also on board, which is sometimes hard because you could believe in a project and try to advocate for that project and the sales team just won't buy it. It's just they're like, we don't believe in it in the same way you do. Most of the time we can convince them with our like pure passion for a brand or for a project. You have to really believe in it. But we are so entrenched together on the day to day. We have our sales meetings all the time. We're talking every week. We're in the office together. So it's a real collaboration. They reach out to us constantly about information for their accounts, the sales team, because they probably don't have time to read every book, right? So as the sort of project manager, as the editor, you're constantly talking to them. And I have a lot of great relationships with them. So it's nice to collaborate with them and give them the tools that they need to sell your book in and to really advocate for it, because who knows the book better than the editor? I mean, or the designer that's working on it. Probably no one, I don't think. We're so in it. In terms of marketing and merchandising, we do work reasonably closely, but it's less frequent. It's more of the time leading up to the on sale of the project is when you're really kicking up collaboration with them because you're looking at social media posts, you're talking about, brand points, you're talking about, the strength of your author. And there's a lot of sort of touch points throughout the year leading up to a season, but you really are working closely with them when your book is about to go on sale. Because then you're really pushing each other to make it happen, make sure as many kids as possible can get access to these books. I also do have to mention we work super we work super closely. We work super closely with our school market team. So that's the book clubs and the book fairs. They're still around. They're still doing great. Book fairs is doing fantastically right now. And so we work with them so closely because they are the book buyers for their market. So we are always talking to them. We actually it was just announced that Scholastic made a big leadership change, and we are now part of the same team called the Book Group. So Scholastic Trade and Scholastic School Market, that's book clubs and book fairs, are all under the same leadership now. So we're going to be working even closer together. But they're so wonderful. They know exactly what works in the schools and what they need. So I love working with them because I know some of them from my past life in the school market.
Well, as a kid, I can tell you how excited I was whenever I would get that Scholastic book information. I was always so excited, and especially like if it's the fall, you see the books and it's like, oh, it's all Halloween or something fun like that. Like I can tell you, like that was the best thing, and having the book fair, and then having kids of my own, they loved it. They'd be like, how many books can we get?
I love that. I love that. That is so much fun. It's I have a daughter. She's 18 months old, and I cannot wait for her to be able to go to a book fair. I'm gonna volunteer. I'm gonna set it up. I'm gonna be there in some capacity. But I can't wait. It's like what's our biggest joy, right? Our kids are readers, but also like that other kids become readers. So it's wonderful to hear people tell those stories of what the book fairs and the book clubs mean to them because it's so special.
It is. It definitely is. And it's something that you never forget, even as I'm almost 40. So like I still remember the Scholastic book fairs. Those were always fun. Yeah. So how do you maintain a strong relationship with your brand partners and your licensors? That goes into that, you're talking about sales and marketing and all of that. Do you have a memorable moment that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I do. It's again the introverted extrovert thing. I do have a talent for schmoozing. So I usually do well with our partners. You deal with a lot of different personalities at these companies because it's just a matter of what type of product they're producing. So I work with a lot of gaming companies and then I work with toy companies and it's just very different personalities involved. Mostly you just they want to be heard is the thing. It's like every partner wants their voice to be heard and they have ultimate approval over their brand. So when we license a brand, we don't have approval over the brand. They own everything that we produce because it's in their world, right? I'm going to use like Marvel as an example because it's the easiest one. Like we do Marvel graphic novels and we do a Miles Morales graphic novel, and we don't own that story. Marvel owns that story. So you have to make sure that they're happy. And what they want to see from you is care and passion about their project. Because of my interests, I can easily be passionate about these brands. And it's like I'm passionate about them anyway, even if I wasn't an editor. So it's easy for me to make sure that they're happy. I'm a people person ultimately. It requires a little bit of give and take, but I go to a lot. I used to, actually, correction. I used to go to a lot of conventions where I would meet with them face to face, all of our brand partners, and that did a lot. If you're just an email, a faceless email, it's difficult for them to be like, "Oh no, they know what they're talking about," or, "Oh, that person, like, I trust them because I talked to them in person." You're not just an email in their Outlook. So I do a lot of work in maintaining those relationships. Like, I like to get on calls with them to make sure that they, like, hear me and understand why I'm trying to guide their project in the way that I do. Because ultimately, like, their interest is in my best interest, right? Like, I wanna make sure they're happy and they approve the book so we can print it. So, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of that. I like the person to person interactions. I don't get to do them as much anymore, which is a little sad, but maybe that'll change, but it's really no substitute. I do have a really special moment I wanted to share. I'm the editor for Bell and Woodard's books. Technically, Bell and Woodard is considered like a licensor or a brand for us. But when I worked on her first book called More Than Peach, she's overcome with the gravity of her story and her activism. If you guys don't know, Bellen Woodard is a young activist. And when she was a little girl, she was in her classroom at a very young age. And she realized that when she asked her classmate to pass her a crayon for skin tone, they always passed her the peach crayon. She's African American, and she was very startled and upset by this, that every time, a flesh tone crayon was always a peach crayon. So she challenged the language surrounding skin tone representation in crayons. She's actually the very first crayon activist, which is such a wild term. And I love that she's the first one. She then built this entire business around expanding representation in, like, not only crayons and, like, colored pencils, but in, like, communities. The book ended up, it was a picture book, and I ended up telling the story of what happened to her in the classroom and her activism. And the book ended up winning a prize from the school library journal. And I was so proud that it was getting recognition it deserved, because I do on the licensing team of a lot of projects, as you guys know, and they rarely get that sort of special recognition. And I was so proud of it. And also, though, in a totally different tone, I'm speaking from being a 90s kid. I worked on a handful of projects with the rapper Ludacris, and I was like truly I was truly a fangirl about it. He actually likes to be called Chris, which is amazing. We worked on a picture book, and he created this brand called Karma's World, which was wonderful. And we did a bunch of chapter books and things like that. But I was a total fangirl about it. Like, I was like, this is the pinnacle of my career. Like, I am talking to Chris. I'm talking to Ludacris. We're hanging out. He's like sending me emails. Like, this is amazing.
I'm kind of in the same genre in that same sense because I was born in the 80s, raised in the 90s. It gets exciting when you get to meet people that not only are from your childhood, but then meeting them in person is exciting in and of itself.
And you know what the best part about it was? I have very low expectations with celebrities because I'm like, they can't be like cool, right? They like, I'm like, I don't know. He was so down to earth. I mean, he was the nicest guy. He was so nicer than some of my brand partner. Honestly, he was so great. He sent me an email on, like, publication day and was like, I'm so proud of this book. And it's like he was filming, like, Fast and the Furious. And I was like, how do you remember that this book is going on sale today? Like, he was the nicest guy. And you just never, again, like, you never know who is going to be the most humble person or the nicest person that you, like, love interacting with, right?
I'm sitting here vicariously fangirling out through Lori's life, like, yes, the Miles Morales team. Yes, the crayon activist. Yes, Chris.
Okay, well, I'm gonna send you the book when it comes out, because I just love that. It's like, I feel like, as a gamer girl myself, like, I feel like us great gamer girls get kind of overlooked sometimes. So it's nice to have those gamer girl books. Like, girls are badasses. Like, let's show them. I mean, I know we're talking a lot about brands and like I'm talking a lot about brands and licensing. But you know what? It's like fandom is so beautiful because a kid could be like a reluctant reader and not want to read anything, but then they see their favorite character on a book and they're like, actually, mom and dad, like, can you buy this book for me? Because I want to know more about Miles Morales or I want to know more about like Ghost Spider or something like that. And it's, you know, it's a way to get them engaged in reading all over again. I know a lot of parents are like, boo, like license read, but I think it's the most wonderful way to get into it. Like, show a kid what they like already in a different media and then get them to read, get them away from the screen.
You're speaking our language
Yes.
because we talk about this all the time. If there we can have a way to get the kids excited about reading, it doesn't matter what, like, let's just get them reading again.
I just saying, guys, the random thing works for adults too. Like, that's how I read still. So, in a lifelong get you a reader and somebody excited about what's happening. I will say this, coming from the entry level side of publishing myself and meeting a lot of people like me who are just trying to get their foot in, who have been in it for a couple of years, a lot of us sometimes don't have a really clear idea of what a top position does all day. So that's why we're really excited to have you on. But when it comes to senior editor, a lot of people really do think you're editing all day. And that's kind of what they want to do. So, what advice would you give to somebody who's trying to aspire to be senior editor anywhere? What is it that they should do to try to bulk up their portfolio and make sure that they have the skills to take on this huge, huge position that encompasses more than one thing?
Read, 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 read everything, read anything, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be books. It could be anything. You could read articles on websites. Like it really is, it's this sort of, I mean, you could look at it like the brain is a muscle, and that's what they say about writing too. Write, write and write and write and write. Don't, it doesn't matter what it is. I really do feel like just read a lot so you have knowledge of a lot of different genres, even if you're just a picture book editor, or even if you want to just be a picture book editor. It's good to have that knowledge in your back pocket for when you talk to people around you, talk to like leadership positions. Like if you show that you have a lot of knowledge of different areas in the company, that works for a lot. I will say, once you get to a senior editor position, there is sometimes a management component. So, some editors on my team don't do a lot of managing. I'm mentoring some other editors in the company. So, I feel like they're priming me. They're priming me for more management responsibilities. So, when you do move up, it's rare that you don't also have to be a manager in some capacity. So always keep that in mind. I know people who in other companies that are just content being an editor. They just want to edit books. They don't want to manage another editor or deal with that component of it. And it's not in every single publishing house, but it's something to keep in mind. I also think that I know we're going to get to this question eventually, but networking, talking to people, it's great. When I was talking about how I got into my current job, the reason why I was even like sort of eligible for the editor's position in trade was because I had networked with the licensing team so much throughout my 7 years at Scholastic. I talked to them at meetings. I talked to them outside of meetings when I ran into them out the hallways. I went to conventions with them. And it ended up being that sort of connection that caused them to reach out to me when the position opened up. So it's really like you just never know what you're going to say to someone to make them think of you. And especially if you're in a publishing house and say you're in marketing, you're just starting out and you're in marketing and you're interested in getting into editorial, like, make friends with the editorial team, like, talk to the editor, say, "Hey, I wanna set up just an exploratory interview just to, like, hear about your job and what you do." People tend to like to talk about themselves and their positions, but it's really about building those connections in unexpected ways, and, like, it will make your job easier. Like, make friends with the sales team, like, it'll make your job easier. Like, it's just being a good person and building connections around you, even if it's not necessarily on your team or in your field, is always beneficial to your job. And that's something that I learned over the last few years, is that it never hurts to have another person on your side, no matter what department they're in. Like, it's just always a good thing and make your job way easier.
Let's talk about networking then, because you walked in yourself. No, but networking is really important in general, especially in today's world. And we're very digitally connected. Obviously, Teresa and I, we found you on LinkedIn. We spoke to you. We consider this networking. Sometimes the easier it is to talk to people, the harder it is to talk to people. So I know it wasn't your lived experience to be finding a job in this sort of atmosphere. But do you have any advice on where to go to network online and in person for people who are trying to get into publishing?
Yeah, I know there are a lot of events for young publishers. Like if you Google, emerging, oh my gosh, what is it called? Emerging leaders in publishing. I think I will send you a correction if not. But there are a lot of opportunities specifically, and I hate to say in New York City in person. Obviously it's a publishing hub for a reason. All the major, most of the major publishers are there. So there are a lot of opportunities, if you take even if you take a class at a college that is somewhat related to, I know the NYU publishing course is like sort of the most famous for that. That's a good networking experience. Actually, LinkedIn is a good way to network. Obviously, I met you two lovely ladies through LinkedIn. So, I mean, I'm happy for that. But there have been people that I know who have gotten a first interview by cold emailing on LinkedIn. This is not common. I don't necessarily encourage this because oftentimes you will not get a response. But you know what? You never know. Like I've been saying, like you just never know. He had interviewed with 20 different positions and he emailed the president of a department and said, "Hey, I love publishing. I'm trying to get in. Do you mind just like talking to me about publishing?" It's almost better for you to say, "Hey, I just want to talk to you about what you do and about your industry," than say, "Hey, I want a job." Because you rarely get a response when you're like, "Hey, hire me." But you will get a response if you're like, "Hey, I just want to like talk to you. I need some advice. I want to know more about you and about what you do and about your company." I feel like people are much more receptive to that. And if it ends up in a job, that's amazing because that you showed that you're passionate and interested about the industry. So I feel like that's a resource that you could try that you could try. LinkedIn is, they have a lot of different in-person opportunities. Of Children. Oh my God, I'm gonna botch this. So I'm not even gonna say it. It's just wait, you're in it, Teresa, right? What is it called?
SCBW.
They have so many events, and I was a member for, like, 2 years and then was like, "I can't do this," and I, like, gave up, but I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back. I swear to you ladies, I'm gonna get my membership renewed because I thought it was wonderful. They have, like, local groups that you can talk to, and you can have, like, writing workshops or editing workshops, and I thought that was so cool that it was so regional and you could find other people that were interested in that way. So those are that's a roundabout way of saying, those are the most of the ways you can network. Talk to everyone. Talk to everyone.
That's very good advice. And I think the motto might be to take calculated positive risks. So if you feel confident, you could try that. Hey, you have a job open. I might be a good fit for this job. Could lead somewhere. We can't guarantee it here, but even better than that is like we did at Penguin, just reach out to someone and say, hey, love to know more about you, like Lori said. 30-minute coffee chat, right? Get to know you. Make a friend. Think of it less, I think, like a homework task and more like making friends, and it'll feel a lot more comfortable.
Love that because even if they don't have even if the person you're talking to doesn't have a job opening now or knows of a job opening, because you form that connection, you never know. 2 months from now, a week from now, a year from now, they might think of you. And I've thought of people in that way. Like if they've reached out to me and we've formed a connection, I'm like, "Oh, hey, like I met this person last year and they might still be in the market for a job or might want to change jobs to another job." You just never know.
Say you never know. That's why you gotta shoot the shot and just get out
That's
there. Come back, okay? This is the motivation portion.
Yeah, no, I feel
You
like I
always just wanna be like,
future shot or like whoop for the moon, you'll land among the stars, but I never actually want to say that.
let's take a little journey back to your job and what you do and you as a professional. There's always a trend or something happening in kids media and kids publishing. Lori, how do you keep up with all of these trends? Do you do research on your own time? Does your company help you stay alert and aware of what's going on? How do you know that what you're producing is what people want to read and what people need?
It's tough. It's tough. And it's a team effort for sure. I do a lot of reading. My entire team does a lot of reading. We're always looking at blogs. We're looking at those major pop culture websites. So I'm looking at The Cut. I'm looking at Vulture. I'm looking at, Entertainment Weekly. I'm looking at Publishers Weekly. I'm looking at anything. If someone walks by my computer, they might think I'm just looking at like a pop news website. I'm actually doing research most of the time. But, you have to just look at popular culture constantly. You have to pretty much be immersed in it all of the time. Going to conventions, obviously, you see what kids are. You go to a Comic-Con in New York and you see what kids are most excited about. They're wearing the t-shirts, they're dressing up as the characters, they're going to the booth. You have to be on the ground and you have to be doing the work constantly because trends change so quickly that before you know it, publishing lead time is so long. You know, what might be really popular right now in this moment in time is not going to be popular by the time you put out the book. So you have to kind of anticipate the trajectory of the popularity of something. So it gets to be hard, but we actually have this meeting internally called the Gaming and Geekdom meeting. And it's a bunch of sort of like gaming and geekdom enthusiasts. We get together and we meet once a month and we talk about trends. Like we talk about games that we think are popular. We talk about toys we think are popular. We talk about web comics that we want to turn into graphic novels. And it's a wonderful way for us all, people who are passionate about brands and media, to all come together and figure out what's going to be the next hot thing. So it's definitely not just me doing the work. It's so many people doing the work. And our school channels are such an awesome resource for that too, because the category managers there are part of this big team. So we're all in it together trying to figure out what the hottest thing is and what the hottest thing next. Or like even we have these meetings where we talk about not just a toy or a brand, but like fairies are hot right now. Like why are like you know what I mean? Like you all of a sudden see something trending, even if it's like in Target or like in a store or online, or you're seeing a bunch of kids with a weird toy and you're like, what is that thing? And then everyone comes together and is like, oh, I saw that. Oh, I saw that. So it's fun. It's fun, but you have to keep on top of it because it changes all the time. My fellow editor, Connor Lloyd, runs it. He's on my team and he constantly says this is my favorite meeting of all time because it's a half an hour and we just get to talk about the things that we're like most like nerdy about. And I love that.
This is really beautiful advice. And honestly, I've been on the side where you're trying to bulk up your resume and you're trying to take every class and every certification possible just to show that you're work ready. But especially when it comes to Kidlit, I find that if you come in with the enthusiasm of knowing what's happening
Yeah.
in children's literature, which is really big, so you're not going to nail everything down. But if you show that, yes, you pay attention, I think you've come in 60% above other candidates. I really do.
One of the questions that I was asked when I was initially interviewed at Scholastic, they say, what was your favorite children's book when you were a kid? And then they asked me, what is your favorite children's book that has come out over the last year? And that was a tough question. It's like that, like to your point, you have to know what's going on in trends and you have to keep up to date in your industry in order to sort of like prove your chops a little bit. And it does so much for you as a candidate, for you as a professional to say, no, actually, like I do have a book that I love that has come out in the last year. And here's why. And I've read it. It's not just like summary copy. It's like, no, I like read the book. I have the book.
Yeah, market knowledge is just as valuable sometimes as a college degree. And unfortunately, there's really no class that you can take. It's just something that, like you said, you have to be aware of, you have to put in the effort. But once you start doing it, you might really enjoy it too because it's not hard homework. It becomes fun homework the more you do it. Lori has given like so much advice, but now I'm going to challenge her with a really hard question. The evil laugh is happening. One piece of advice, Lori. What's one piece of advice that you would give someone trying to be senior editor one day in the future?
We open opportunities, even if it's in another department and that's how you get your start. You get your start in marketing or merchandising or whatever it is, and you didn't necessarily feel like that's your ultimate goal. Like, be open to it. Be open to making friends, be open to other jobs, be open to taking on a little bit of other work. Maybe it's not necessarily a job, not too much work. I don't like when people take on too much work without it being their job, but, be open to it. Just be open to things that you might not necessarily think will obviously lead you to your dream position, but it might. Yeah, I mean, you are going to wear a lot of hats and you have to be ready for the hats. They might not be the hats you love, but you have to wear the hat. You must wear the hat. You have to be flexible when you're working in publishing because things shift all the time, whether that's shifting your responsibilities, what you're handling, or that's a shifting department that has new leadership. You have to be versatile and you have to be ready to be versatile because it's not the type of job that you're only editing books. You're also project managing books. You're looking at art. You're writing marketing copy. You're approving marketing copy. You're just doing so many different things that aren't necessarily under what you think the idea of an editor is. And, you know, sometimes it's not for you when you get down to it, but you know what? You can do it. Like, even if you're not familiar doing these other things that are put onto your plate, just know you have the ability to do it. Like, the people are giving you these additional responsibilities and asking for your versatility because they think that you can do it, and you can. Like, well, I didn't think I could do any of what I do now. Honestly, I really didn't. And you fake it till you make it type of thing, and you grow those skills. You don't start with those skills. Skills are rarely inherent in your day-to-day life. So it's a muscle like anything else. Like, you learn to be versatile even if you have something that you're unfamiliar with. You will be an expert at it eventually, but you have to start somewhere.
What surprised you the most about working in children's publishing over the years?
Wow, that's a big question. What surprised me the most about children's publishing over the years? That people take it very seriously. That children's publishing is very serious. I initially, when I started my job at Scholastic, I was like, oh, it's fun, it's light, it's humorous. But when it comes down to it, children's publishing is crucial for building young readers and for setting up the foundation to become, what we are right now: writers, readers, editors. It increases literacy skills. I think I underestimated that in children's publishing, that those building blocks to becoming a reader was so serious and important. And I think a lot of people overlook that. What we're doing is not just like, here's a story. Like, it's like, no, you're creating future readers. You're creating people who are going to be engaged with each other. You learn a lot about early connections, social emotional skills when you're reading to kids at a young age. When you're introducing books to kids, you're introducing books that help them explore emotions and become like great members of society and great people to be friends with. And I think that I totally underestimated that in children's publishing. I was not a good reader when I was a kid, so I struggled a lot. I was very behind, and I feel like I didn't come into my own until I was comfortable in that space into reading. And that didn't come until I was late in elementary school, and that was because I had great access to, like, great books and access to the materials. So I think that it's a serious business, even though it doesn't seem super serious.
That was wonderful. Getting comfortable into reading. Reading is so independent, and I'm going to swing that into what we're talking about today, which is that your work journey is also very unique.
Yes.
So I hope that by listening to Lori today, all of our audience is going to get some confidence in moving forward and getting comfortable in finding their own journey. And before we let Lori go and allow her her freedom, we will thank her so much for being here because you were open with us, you were honest, and we really, really appreciate it. It's these kinds of conversations that we hope are going to be had more and more often between people who are starting and people who are established. So do us a favor, go to the storytellershowpodcast.com, find the episodic calendar, and click on Lori's name.
Thank you very much.
If you enjoy this episode, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and share this with a friend because we know that other people out there could use this too. And one last thing, if you like freebies, definitely join us in our email newsletter. Pop your email in, it's for free. We don't spam you, but we occasionally send things like career opportunities, awards and contests, and handy dandy things like pitch guides and query guides that you might find very useful. So otherwise, we will let you go today, and we'll see you again next time.